morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser. It is a Monday morning, so as always, Grumpy is out and in full effect, and the Polish Prince is in the house. What's going on?
Not much, not so grumpy. I'm not quite like Kazi, where I'm sitting here waiting for the press conference. Day 74 of asking for a Schlott press conference. But other than that, yeah, everything's good.
Yeah, man, how are you handling this? You had like a busy week last week, so we'll talk about that. But it's kind of like, we're used to some kind of I'm used to literally on Tuesday or Wednesday looking at the weekend, seeing when Liverpool plays, if Fenerbahce is playing, when they play and stuff, and kind of like schedule everything around it unless something trumps it, but only like a few things, unless they're like kids related to the kids and stuff. A few things really trump the game time. So now it's like open schedule. It feels like it's an odd feeling.
And that's, I feel like, the start of every summer is like that. You go for the first couple weeks thinking, what do I do? Like, what do I really do in life besides working around everything Liverpool related? What do I actually do in life? And the first 2 weeks really makes you think about it and makes you really sit down, and you have to really have that conversation with yourself. Like, should there be more to this? No, it's fine. It's just, that's all this is.
You're like, no.
Of course not.
I actually had that realization, and I think I fixed it a little bit, where I realized when, like during COVID, when you had no sports and like the soccer thing was taken away, and I had so much freaking time on my hands to do stuff. And I was like, man, I gotta like allocate my time a lot better. Like, there's no reason for me to sit down and watch. I mean, this is for fun, and like we're doing it with Angie and like just checking it out and like chilling at the same time and stuff. There's no reason for me to watch, I don't know, like a game in Germany that I really don't care about just because it happens to be on as soccer, or Burnley, Watford, whatever. Like, I got to do some other stuff. So I improved that a lot, I think, over time. Like, I don't watch as much junk sports, if you will, but it's slowly creeping back. And I caught myself watching something the other day. I was like, why am I watching this? Like, this affects me.
You had that itch.
Yes, it was weird. Yeah,
you're looking around going, what is going the Bundesliga 2. Put it on.
Yeah, it's scary. It is scary. Cersei says quack quack. That's the new language for the morning. There was a lot of quacking going on. I was at Gordo's on Saturday. Hey, you want transfer news that no one else has, and you want transfer news that is actually official, because it was June 1st. It was Finn's 3rd birthday, and I am glad to announce that I have signed him on a long-term contract with American Scouser. Thank you very much. It was really easy negotiations. Just brought a birthday gift with us, and it's all set. I did, however, loan him back to Gordo's family for development, but he will be joining American Scouser down the road as he develops. So getting shit done, man, over the weekend.
I like how long term you are in all of this. It's you're quite Edwardsing it, and I appreciate that.
You have to be, and if it doesn't pan out, we're just gonna have to do something else with them. But
just like any of the other kids in the academy, you just toss them away, you forget about them, right? That's how the clubs work.
No, like Gordo, in very soccer fashion, had goals set up, so he was taking a couple of shots, and I was like, you know what? Gotta sign this kid early. So 3 years old, it doesn't matter. We signed them up, and he's good to go. But there were ducks running around all over the place. Gordo's ducks running around, and I did get to sample them. The hardest part of sampling it is then you walk outside, and like his friends are walking around looking for the one that you probably just ate. They're like, has anybody seen Joe? Like, he was just here. So yeah, it was a little awkward that way, but yeah, good times were had, but not as good as you probably just living it up in Vegas last week.
I have disappointed every single person I've talked to about this. Just for warning, I didn't do anything in Vegas. I'm going to be honest. We landed Wednesday afternoon, and went to the Airbnb, then just drove out of Vegas, like towards the suburbs of Vegas for dinner, and then drove back, didn't do anything that night. And the next
Wait,
day,
you guys drove to the suburbs of
well, not
Vegas for dinner?
suburbs of Vegas. We didn't go into Vegas. We drove away from the downtown area, just to be something a bit quieter, I guess. So it was nice because it wasn't so hectic. It kind of felt like. Have you been to Schaumburg?
Yes,
It
obviously.
kind of felt like
You
Schaumburg.
make it sound like you're like Ada. You know what? Who's a couple of hours away from you is Gordo.
Gordo,
Like
yeah.
he lives where cell phone reception does not. So, like literally, I had no idea what the score was, messages, nothing. When I was there, zero reception on the phone. He lives a couple of hours away from you. I actually used to live in Schaumburg. I will let you know.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't like by Higgins and golf over there.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so yeah, you're familiar. So
Unbelievable.
So it looked like Schaumburg where we went, and the next 2 days were spent working. The Thursday night we went out to a steakhouse, which was nice. Friday we came back to the Airbnb. The owners of the shop, they went to go see Carrie Underwood. Myself and the GM were meant to go see Cirque du Soleil, but our diamond broker who had done the appointment or who had done the scheduling for the events kind of messed up and scheduled the wrong day. So, because she had so many other people that she was trying to see. So we just ended up staying inside the Airbnb for Friday night, which was fine because it's not.
You're in Vegas. It is not fine. No,
Yeah,
it is not
it
fine.
was-
Don't kid yourself. It is not fine. You're in Vegas and
I
staying
wasn't-
in an Airbnb.
I wasn't gonna take an Uber to go to downtown Vegas by myself and just walk around and do what? I don't know.
Football Flashback is on there. He can give you a couple of ideas on what to do in Vegas.
It rhymes with vetting, possibly. Yeah, no, I had a 20 that I threw in at the airport on the way back because I didn't have a chance to play before.
Yeah, because I'm actually amazed in Vegas. Like Airbnbs don't have their own machines and stuff like that.
That would be great. No, but this one, we had the pool, we had the whole house, and I don't know. I didn't really have the urge to go. I saw a bunch of stuff as we were driving into the expo, and for me, I would have much rather enjoyed the whole experience with my wife if we had a chance to go around, walk around together. I just didn't want to do stuff by myself. It just felt weird. So that's why I've been telling everyone that please don't ask how it went because you're going to be so disappointed in me because I frankly didn't do much besides just work the 2 days that we were on the floor. But yeah, it was still a good time though. It was so hot. Honestly, it was so hot.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Going there in June is asking for it.
Kazi lives there, doesn't he?
Not in Vegas, but he's in Nevada. I think he's like an hour or two away.
Yeah,
But still, I'm sure he has the same weather.
It's like it was what 101, 104, 102, 103 when we were there. It was just disgusting.
Yeah, 3 digits is no bueno.
The problem was though that the inside the expo at some points it got so cold from the air conditioning in certain booths that it was chilly. And I was just like, my head is just all bunch of.
Yeah, you'll be
right
sick
now.
in a couple of days over here.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, because that's usually how it works. You know, I wonder now, football flyweight. We're talking about us going through withdrawals. What are you betting on football flashback? Because it has to be rough.
The MLS.
One of my favorite Turkish American and the Prince. Yes. I was wondering like what a Prince does, but this is what a Prince does, when there's no soccer, just hangs out in Vegas at an Airbnb. Like, wow.
Well, okay.
That kind of sucks you couldn't go to Cado because that is like I thought it was probably one of the best Cirque du Soleil shows.
Yeah, I think that was probably the biggest disappointment. It is what it is. I'm not gonna hold any grudges or be upset. There's a lot that goes on during these shows, and so I can only understand when you have accounts with people from all across the country and you're trying to make sure you can see all these people and make reservations for them. I get that sometimes a few of those can slip through the cracks. So it's not the end of the world, but yeah, if we had stayed on the strip or stayed in one of the resort hotels near the venue, near the expo, I would have been able to kind of walk around more and do some more stuff, I'm sure. But because the owners and the GM, they've done all of this before, they felt like it would have been
That's
a
why
much
they didn't reserve it there, I think.
would have been a
They've done
much
this before.
yeah, it would have been a much more fun experience for them to do the Airbnb and rent a car and all this stuff. So, yeah, it was, for what I wanted to do, it worked out. I just know that I will try not to tell too many people about it because they will be upset that I didn't do anything.
Yes, and rightfully so. I mean, especially I mean, what is it at night then? We're talking like 70s, 80s at night if it's 100 during the day?
Yeah, it was really nice. We were able to I would just sit outside by the pool and just kind of keep my legs in the pool. It wasn't warm enough. Like the water never got
The
warm.
crazy
Though. That was
lifestyle
weird.
you live, man, going to Vegas and putting your legs in the pool. That's what I
This
like.
doesn't happen all the time, you guys. This was the first time that I went to the
To be
jewelry
fair,
show.
to all those listening, I mean, I know for us, we would go to Vegas and do other stuff. But when you live the royalty life, you want to kind of like live the normal life every once in a while and stay at
Trying,
let's see how the common folk
yeah.
lives in
I'm
an
trying
Airbnb.
trying to taste it so I can relate to you guys on that level, because right now I can't relate to anyone, obviously.
I know.
Right?
We appreciate that. Do you relate to Football Flashback, talking about what do you guys make of Romano? I think Romano basically reads more. I mean, it probably has better contacts with agents for one, but I think he just basically reports somebody else reported that you would never hear from normally. And then, he just like announces it and everybody and their brother follows him. So you get the news. I mean, I don't think like he said anything that happens 2 weeks later. That was like, out of nowhere. And then it happens 2 weeks later. I think he kind of like, gets an slightly earlier whiff of it that probably somebody more with less followers gets. And then he kind of like grabs that and runs with it. And then when it's coming from him, everybody's like, yeah, man, this guy knows everything.
And sometimes, to his credit, he put the work in several years ago to try and get to this point. And now when you have such a following and you are sort of this cult leader of the transfer window, then you have the flexibility to say what other people are saying with more gravitas, if you will. Like the same thing happens in regular day situations. If let's say you're in a store, right, and you have your sales associate and then you have your manager, they both can say the same thing, but if it's coming from the sales manager, then that's going to be taken a lot better than if it's taken from the sales associate, even though they're saying the same words. So that's just kind of what it comes down to. And yeah, he does feed off of other journalists that aren't as big. But to his credit also, it's not like he reports things for the sake of reporting it, because it's usually really accurate though. It's not like he's a huge gossip in the transfer window, because he is reporting on the stuff that typically 99% of the time happens.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan says he's one of the few people I believe, because I mean, if it doesn't happen, it's usually like something went south in the last minute, like a medical or something like that. I mean, he does not, to his credit, yes, to gain even more traction, he does not really throw anything and everything out there. It's a nauseating time of season. They make fun of me. I mean, I'm sure they will again tonight on the Monday Night Podcast, but I despise this time of year, because like they put these names out there that you're like, oh, okay, like, oh, that'd be great and stuff like that. But they're just constantly throwing out names. And if you're realistic, you're like, there's no way they can sign all these guys. They all sound great, but there's no way that's going to happen. And then when it doesn't happen, like, I don't care, but I know some fans are like, how many people were like, mad that we missed out on like Thuram and Sangare and stuff like that last year, even though they had never seen them before. And then, like people are like, who are we interested in? Who are we monitoring? Go to YouTube. It's nothing but highlight reels of this guy. And you can tell always where it cuts off. The highlight cuts off. Like he made a move and got past somebody, and the highlight cuts off because the pass was probably bad after it. And then, like, oh yeah, this is the kind of guy we need. And then it just goes downhill.
And they haven't mentioned those names since then either.
No.
Besides Saidu. Saidu is on the Andre train. And I don't think he'll get off the Andre train until he steps foot into Merseyside.
Oh, speaking of... damn it, Football Flashback. I don't know. And that's another thing. Now, for example, it might be more realistic because now the market has really gone down on him. Whereas suddenly And that's why agents do this, right? Like they just get the word out there. Well, yeah, good question. Whatever happened to Andre? Because he didn't go to Fulham either.
No,
Like it
he
was like, oh, he's
didn't.
not going there. He's going to Fulham and stuff like that. And nothing happened out of it. Hold on, Sir Z posted this, but we're gonna have to take Sir Z as the source because I have not heard of this.
I came across it this morning. They said that 1 in 5 Germans said that they wanted to see more white players on the national football team, and Nagelsmann was just like, "This is ridiculous. This is such a dumb thing."
Okay. Initially, when I read the comment, I thought Nagelsmann did a survey asking people.
No.
Like,
Nagelsmann was asked about it, and he said, "This is a ridiculous thing. I don't understand why anyone's putting any stock in this whatsoever."
Sadly, I mean, are we shocked that? I mean, I guess I'm shocked that it's that high, like 1 in 5. But I guess depends on where you're doing the survey and stuff too.
I mean, 20%. It's it's.
You know what I mean? If I told you to do a survey like that in the US, I'm not going to name names and states or whatever, but there are certain areas where if you do that, you're going to get different numbers than other areas.
Sure. Yeah. And I don't know what the demographic was that who they chose and where, because, yeah, you're right. I feel like, if you're in, let's say, Berlin or the bigger cities, like more progressive cities, it's going to be like 1 in 20 maybe. But if you're maybe out more towards the countryside, it'd probably be closer to that 1 in 5. So that does make sense. I don't know the extent of who was asked. I just know that it stated that 1 in 5, that was the number.
Yeah, like I say, I'm not shocked there's a vote in Germany, knowing a lot of people in Germany, but that does seem high. But then again, like I say, it depends on where they went, and that they rounded off 16, like, or 15 to 20, or what I mean, like, so God knows what the heck they did to get like anything out of that. But yeah, okay. When I first read the comment, I was like, what? Ryan says, do you mean we're signing him? No, I never said that, man. I never. Keep the hope up. Keep the hope. Honestly, I would not
maybe
want
next
Mbappe.
year.
I would not want Mbappe, even if he was available and we were going to sign him for. I just would find it really hard to root for him. Vinny is a different story. I think I'd be okay with Vinny. I think Vinny is the kind of guy that you would like his celebrations and stuff like that if he was doing it for your team. I mean, look at what Bobby did. I'm sure people felt the same way about Bobby's celebrations that we loved. But, they were like, oh, he's too. I mean, I know my brother hated Bobby the most, which I was like, really? Because I find obviously he was one of my favorite players. I'm like, he's like the most likable dude. But I can see if you're from another team, finding that more aggravating because probably doing it after they scored on you.
Yes. It's one of those players that you love to have on your team, but you hate to see it. It's sort of like Andy Robertson too. I feel like his name is another one that's synonymous amongst the category of like, hey, he's a shithouse, but he's our shithouse, so we love him. But if he was doing any of this to us, we would absolutely hate it. But yeah, Vinny he's not leaving Madrid. Mbappe, I mean, it's an interesting thing there though, because you have arguably two of the best players in the world and two of the best players in the world that both play on the left side.
Yes.
Is it a good problem to have? Is it, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Real will be fine, but it's interesting to see how that's going to work, or if maybe Mbappe plays through the middle. I don't know.
Probably. That's what I'm guessing Mbappe would be up the middle. And I think that's what he wants a little bit as well, or it would be very fluid because, I mean, Vinicius can finish too. And obviously they did win the Champions League again this weekend, by the way. We were there. I was like at Gordo's. We were going to, he's like, I'm going to have the game on. And I couldn't even follow it on the phone, but I was like, do I really care? It was one of those things. I'm like, do I really care? I'm going to sit down and watch over there. Chouameni has said, I think 80 times that he does not want to come here. So I don't know why.
Yeah, why?
We got to go find our own guys. We're just not going to. I mean, they do have a surplus, but I even read Arda, who's there, is not going to be leaving anytime soon. Football Flashback is constantly throwing names at us. Hold on. Inacia or Barella? Barella is a little old, isn't he?
I mean, upper 20s, I thought. No.
I mean, for Edwards, that's old. 27? Maybe.
Nico, 27. He's still doable. That's still doable.
So, I mean, I guess who would you guys rather sign is the question, and it's like a loaded question. I think I have more positions in mind than players. Like you go find the right spot because the player I find or we like watching whatever. Arne might be like, yeah, that's great, but he doesn't do this or whatever, you know. But I think this team needs a center back. This team is a defensive midfielder and a right winger. I think we were talking about this last Monday. We've been saying literally the same shopping list for the last 3 off seasons now.
Yeah, one of the it's like you look at your fridge and you write down the list, and then you leave the house and you get to the store and you realize you left the list on the counter, and now it's been 3 years since you've been able to buy that whatever you've been looking for. So yeah, it sounds like we're in the same conversation every single time. I think Football Flashback might have been referring to the DM specifically of who would you rather sign, because he threw out some names. I know Andre. Again,
Yep.
like people are saying Andre would be better than Endo. We have no idea. We have absolutely no idea that player will be better than Endo. You can't say any of that. He'd be coming from the Brazilian league, and not every single player that comes from there is great. Think about all the Brazilians that are not good overseas. It's not a sure thing. That's the most annoying thing. And yeah, but you're right. There's too many. I'd much rather just make sure that the positions are taken care of and not necessarily focus on the names, because the market's going to determine who's available for the names.
Yeah.
If we, perfect world, Caicedo would have been the DM from last year, right? I think that would have been the perfect world. Having someone like Rice would be amazing. That's not going to happen either. So when you think of what could happen, Ederson from Atalanta or João Palhinha, I think would be fine. Yeah, Sergi mentioned Ederson as well. Ross Barkley, I don't understand why anyone would even mention his name to be anywhere near Liverpool unless it's at Everton.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
Dude, I mean, here's the deal. He's 5 million because he's like 50. So
Yeah.
that there's a reason why he's so cheap, because he's a rental at best. He's Edwards. You can put a gun to his head. He still, I don't think, would sign a player like Ross Barkley. Whereas Carvalho has like a future, and I don't know. I actually feel like Carvalho could be on this team this year. Polina, I think, is probably who Ryan is referring to as well. I'd be okay with that. I mean, okay, let me ask you this then. Do you prefer somebody from the Premier League that you know and have seen, or do you roll the dice with an Ederson or somebody else or Andre?
I think I'm more comfortable rolling the dice on. I mean, this is probably going to sound really Eurocentric, but someone who has played in the European leagues as opposed to someone who's played in any of the South American leagues. I think there's an additional level to it. Obviously, if you're picking someone from the Romanian league, there might be a different opinion on the talent there. But if we pick up someone from the Bundesliga or Serie A or La Liga or which was the last one I can't think of right now. I think that's pretty much it, right? One of those. Then I'm totally
drawing a blank. Go ahead.
The German league, the Spanish league, the French league, the Portuguese league, like anything there, I would have more confidence in, because at least there's some sort of level of competition that you can go off of for comparison's sake. You just can't take anything from the Brazilian league without taking it with a grain of salt, because you don't know what it's going to be like over here. So I definitely would much rather prefer someone from.
So it's not the soccer part you're worried about. It's more like lifestyle and location parts.
No, because I think it's more your experience with the level of competition. Like
the pace of the game and stuff like that, you're saying?
Yes, you can see Endrick over in Brazil running circles around guys in that league at 16, 17, 18 years old. He's not going to do that in La Liga. He's not going to be able to do the same thing he's been doing in Brazil. Obviously, that's not the best comparison because he's a striker and that's going to be taken a different way. But that's just where I'm coming from, is that we're not comparing similar competition. We're comparing like someone who's the best of a much lower league. It's kind of, if you think about this is, American Scouser, and you think about things like the NBA, you think about players like some would say like Kevin Love back when he was on the Timberwolves, he would put up 30 points and 15 rebounds a game, but he was putting it up on a team that was awful. So what kind of amount of skill is there? And so you can look really good on a really bad team. Not to say that he's coming from a bad team in Brazil, but the competition makes him look better.
Okay, I hear that. I mean, I think like you're kind of like putting the leagues in different tiers then. But having said that, like we've gotten players from the Dutch league, which is really very, very top heavy, like the other ones, where it's like, is it going to be 4-0 or is it going to be 6-1 kind of a deal? Like when like PSV plays somebody or Ajax plays somebody. Well, Ajax normally, but so I don't know. I think it's more like a background too, maybe like, being used to, I feel like there's a certain discipline to the game in most European leagues that, takes less of an adjustment when you come to the Premier League. Whereas, heck, I know like players when they come from Turkey, for example, or when they come into Turkey, for example, it's kind of like an adjustment. Same thing with, like South American leagues. I mean, first of all, it's a bigger adjustment. Obviously, you're moving to another freaking continent. So your adjustment to life in general is a bit more difficult than going from Portugal to England or something like that. But aside from that, I think there is like a difference in terms of how football operates in general as well. So it does make it tricky. Football Flashback says, is it risky for me to bet that Kudus will sign for LFC?
Probably.
Odds are decent, really. Okay, like what do you think about Kudus, for example? Sometimes you see these players on other teams, similar to exactly what you said, like the Kevin Love example, right? Maybe they get the ball more or they have more freedom to get the ball and take somebody on and stuff like that. But then they don't function as well when they're in a system. So do you look at a player like, what was the dude's name from Newcastle, left wing?
From recently,
just freaking impossible to go 101. Hey, good morning from another airport's waiting area. The company card pays for beers?
It does now.
Nice, good company. Are they hiring? Is the follow-up question. Kudos is a beast. And yeah, I mean, I like to win an Ajax as well. I just find that sometimes when we look at players and evaluate them, like you see them like beating people, or you see them like, I don't know, taking Trent on or taking Robertson on the wing and stuff like that. Like, oh, it'd be great to have a guy like this. But then they might not have that same freedom or the way, well, here's the ball, do something with it kind of an approach. And that takes away from them because they are now part of mini players as opposed to maybe the attack running through them or something like that.
Yeah, sort of like the Sobo thing, right?
Yes.
I think we've mentioned that Sobo has been so used to being the playmaker, so used to being the central focus and being the one that has to create everything, that it's sort of been a little bit his time has been a little bit downgraded because of that. Maybe there's a bit of that. I think with as far as Kudus is concerned, I do enjoy his willingness to just run at people. And that's something that we've always asked, Diaz to continue to do. And then when Mo was really at his best, like he just instilled fear doing that. So I think it's something that could work. It's just a matter of if he's able to adapt to the system as well and have to adjust. And some players can and some players can't. And we don't really know until they're here.
Yes. And I think, look, and here's another thing, like, I don't know, and I think that's the problem. I think Football Flashback was talking about it earlier in terms of like a slot machine or something like that. Yet another pun of the week. But we don't know the system, right? We don't know if he wants the wingers to go at him or if he's gonna. Here's another thing, like I see a lot of, here's how Slot's gonna play and stuff. Like nobody knows, damn it. Like stop making shit up. I mean, we know at least how maybe he has played, but he might look at the squad and maybe people that we can potentially sign and, say, no, this will be better to play this way because I have this guy or I have Mo or whatever the case might be. So Football Flashback asks, an honest answer, is Endo good enough to be a starter if you want to win the Premier League? As I plug this up over here. Go ahead.
I'm going to say yes on the basis of that it could have been possible this year had not everyone's heads fallen off in towards the end of the
That's a
season.
good point. Yeah,
because he was a big part of the team up until March. I mean, not that he wasn't afterwards, but he was a regular starter when this team was top of the Premier League. So I don't see if things, and then we can play the what if game on anything, but if things go a little bit differently, I think they would have won the league, and Endo would have been part of that 11.
Maybe not. I mean, I know what you're saying. That's a good point. We were almost there with Ando there. But did you really look at this past season? And if I told you right now, make a starting 11 of the past season, like, team of the year kind of a thing, are you even putting Ando at that 6? When you look at all the games for the season, do you say, yes, he was there, and then Endo, what I mean? You're putting Mac. I'm almost like in my head putting Mac there by almost default because he's played there a lot.
But who are the other two midfielders then?
I would actually probably put Elliott and let's see.
Because I was gonna say Endo, McAllister, Elliott,
Jones, but
yeah, I would do
injury.
Endo, McAllister, Elliott. That's what I would have. That's what I would have said then and now.
Endo is a filler at Endo. Yes, I've been saying this for a while. I see Endo as a great player to have. The only time I feel like Endo is not very effective, and I think, I think Bickler is watching, we kind of disagree on this slightly, but I think he's not good when you're trying to break down a team.
Mm-hmm.
And attacking wise, somebody who's sitting back and stuff like that. And he becomes the trigger for other teams' press because he's not as good. He's not gonna have the turnaround and stuff like that, even like Bicetic and like Maka does and stuff like that. So, but he's very effective when he comes in, and once we have the lead or something like that, where the other team is opening up a bit more, they're trying to attack a bit more. He's great at intercepting, and I like his quick release, like getting the ball to somebody who's gonna do something with it, and he doesn't try to get try to run with it or anything like that. He has a quick release with it. So I feel like he is best in that spot. So I would love him to come in the last 20 minutes of a game, like we do with it with Milner and stuff in the past, to, get a couple of fouls, do the Milner, get the yellow that we always made fun of and laughed at. And then, close the game out, kind of get more defensive minded, whatever it takes, but do not concede, especially knowing. But to answer the football flashback question, if we're entering a season with Endo as your starting number 6, I am worried.
I think moving forward, that's where I agree. I wouldn't necessarily consider that to be the solution. I don't think that you can go another season entirely with him at the 6 and make it work all the way through. Only because I think with the pieces that are changing, we kind of don't know where things are going to go. But I do think that last year there was a chance, and he would have been a big part of that. But yeah, I don't know where I was going to go with that, other than I agree. I partly
vintage Monday over. Sometimes I start a sentence and I know where it is.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, it's I love Endo, and I think he will be great at that Milner role that you're talking about for this upcoming season, for sure. I think that we kind of took it for granted for what he was able to do for the limited amount of time that he's able to do it last year.
And the Bicetic rotation. See, I'm not sold on that either because I don't know if Bicetic is going to stay healthy. So by week 4, you could be Endo. You're starting defensive midfielder, back to square one.
Yeah.
Do not collect, kind of an ordeal. So I wouldn't want that probably. Even though I do love Bicetic, and I think that Victor makes a good point in terms of the double pivots enables, Maka can be in that role then because he's not the sole defensive midfielder. It is a different role. So if we're playing it that way, and I think he would actually probably like that more. Gravenberg is more used to that. Jones, I think, was playing 6 for the national team, right, when they won the thing. So I wouldn't put him as a 6, but I can see it in a double pivot. So it's going to be, and then you have Gordon coming back, right? You know, actually, I was going to ask you this. We'll probably talk about this tonight too. But did you see Sepp's comment?
Yeah, yeah.
What do you make of that? Because I mean, they put 20 million in very Michael Edwards fashion to probably be able to get like 15 or something like that for him. Or I think Sepp's take on that is we put 20 to tell people to stay the hell away. Because I'm assuming people are like Sepp 20, no, thank you, kind of an ordeal. But what do you make of his comments?
It's difficult because I feel like we don't really have the track record of trying to limit the youth, trying to limit those players from having the opportunity. And at least it's not like he's being stashed on the bench and not being used at all, right? So I think that's a different conversation to have. But it was sort of weird timing wise. But then again, I don't know what would have been the right time to say it, because I think at any point it would have just come off a little bit weird. So I don't know. I don't know.
Nicholas says Seb has probably seen us price Nat Phillips out of a move for 3 full seasons now. And I think, it could be. I just thought the timing was just like so freaking horrible on that. Like, why wouldn't you just wait? I can understand if Klopp is still there and he can say, you know what? I don't think this dude likes me. I got to get out of here. And you guys are not helping the situation by putting the price tag. You would think he would be like, they can put whatever. I mean, I don't know. I would expect him to say, and if I'm his agent, I'm like, hey, just say, I don't care what price tag they put on me. I'm not worried about that right now. I'm worried about earning a starting spots and looking forward to the training camp. See you guys later. I got to go to the pool kind of a thing and just like bail. I mean, that's probably, I know it's more vanilla and probably more like a standard answer that, is not as exciting or something like that. But I would just take the high road and say that and move on. Because if Arne doesn't, or like, does he already know? Has Liverpool already told him Arne doesn't want to even see you in practice or something like that?
Listen,
Arne despises you.
he may be Dutch, but he doesn't care about you, Sepp. He threw that out the window. But if Sepp had said something along the lines, let's say the other way, then he would have been criticized like Kwanzaa was, when Kwanzaa showed a little bit of that cockiness where he was like, yeah, well, I'm just here to take the starting spot.
To be fair, though, he was saying that after like Matthew.
I mean, I understand. Yeah, that was a little bit different. But yeah, you would think that he could have mentioned something about fighting for the starting role and not having to worry about the price tag so much. Because yeah, he's been all over the place the last 3 years.
Or wouldn't you be I'd be like, I'm flattered that they value me, and I'm gonna prove them right this off season in training.
What do you mean? There? What do you mean 20 million? I'm only worth 10. What the fuck?
Yeah, like who says that either? They're like 20. I wouldn't give myself 20. Like,
have you seen me play? No one's gonna give you 20 for this.
Football Flashback says, this may seem random, but any advice for someone who gets hate for their accent because he is from the U.S.? Now, what is the accent? See, because that makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Because I feel, we were talking about this. I can't remember. Oh, Eric, who's new to the website, we were like chatting about it. And we actually thought we like, maybe we should do something just for spite for people like, putting comments on like, oh, look at the Yanks talking about, football and stick to baseball and stuff like that. Like, it's not like, I mean, and it was an episode, I think, like I was there where it says the Turkish one and stuff like that. And I think like Anan or somebody was there. It was just like, we don't look like your typical Yank, if you will. So I can see though, I mean, you don't have a accent. Like I can't even tell. People say I have a little bit of, mine is all over the place. People can't figure out where the hell I'm from. But yeah, like the Alabama, like if it's a Southern really strong accent, I can see that getting hate unnecessarily. I mean, like I say, do you have an accent? I don't hear anything.
No, I mean, I think everyone technically has an accent, if you will. Mine's probably
like a Chicago accent.
I don't do the I don't do the Chicago.
I don't know. Like, somebody asked
me from Chicago.
Where they're like, where are you guys from? I said Chicago, and they made fun of how I said Chicago, and I was like, I just said it normal. Like I didn't say Chicago. I said like I was from Chicago, and they were like, oh, Chicago and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, the accent, and I'm like, I'm freaking Turkish. What accent? But
yeah. I mean, so I don't know if I specifically, I have something of one, but just like, Cersei's saying you all have accents to me, everyone's going to have an accent to somebody. So as far as any advice for that, you can only control what you can control.
Yeah.
As long as the hate isn't something that's,
He's had like
I've
dialect
worked on it.
coaches.
Yeah, I've had coaching. That's why when I answer questions on here, you guys, it's always with complete perfect thoughts, and I never ever don't know what I'm saying because it's always I've gone through so much coaching you couldn't even
He
tell.
was tutored around the clock by
Yes.
many servants.
I used to talk like this actually before I started getting my coaching done. So that's what it was like. As long as the hate isn't becoming, physical or kind of you're getting attacked, whether it's like emotionally or something like that, just try. It's easier said than done. Don't let it affect you that much because in the end, they're probably. I think the best thing I ever heard was if someone has an accent, most likely they know different languages, right? So they know every word that you know, but in a different language as well. And honestly, that's better than what they could ever possibly want to have in life. So don't even worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're just gonna be, I don't know. Not to mention, the ladies love an accent, don't they? I mean, I guess depends on the accent again, but I don't know that Indiana Jones accent, for example. But yeah, normally, I don't know. Over the years, the foreigner accent, you get that.
Fun fact: do you know where the most? Which region of the U.S. has the most sought after accent for news and media?
Georgia, because I'm trying to go out of the nerd order here. Is it like Georgia, Atlanta?
No,
I don't know.
Kansas City area, Kansas, Missouri. Just that central Midwest has like the.
Why is that?
They just have, I guess, the ideal accent
Bland?
where it's not too offensive for people on the East Coast, not offensive enough for people on the West Coast, not offensive enough people in the South, sort of just like right where you can get away with it and not have to kind of battle it out on different in different areas.
So she says it's the only reason my wife married me. I don't know why the hell my wife married me.
Cersei, don't cut yourself short. There's probably one other reason too.
At least. Yeah, let's hope so. Or don't lose that freaking accent. Because I feel like, over time, I mean, obviously, I don't use Turkish much at all, and then really kind of like really screws with your head when you use Turkish. Like if I chat with my brother or we'll do it like the podcast and stuff, then I might throw like a Turkish word afterwards as I'm talking and stuff like that. I think I literally typed because I was typing my brother at the same time. I was typing Angie and I put butt in Turkish there. And, I was like, that's butt, by the way. But then I was like, but this is getting only worse. Just answer what I was writing. So she says wasn't money, that's for sure. Yes, I can vouch for that as well. It wasn't money on that part. Whereas the prince, it's not easy being a prince because you never know, do you? Yeah, I mean, because is it like is it the
never genuine?
Look? Is it that I'm into fashion? Is it that because I'm a prince? I can only imagine like the tortures you have gone through in terms of why Michelle has liked you, right?
Yeah, I still don't fully believe it. I have to every day. I wake up and I think, is this real? I look over in bed and I go, what is she in it for, actually?
I bet you it's my fashion tastes. Like, so she can be like, this purse or this purse, and then you can tell her which one. So yeah,
I'll just buy you both. Why are you asking which one?
Not I will. I'll have my servants go grab both.
They'll go fetch you both. Hey, here, boy, fetch.
Ryan says we all married up. Yes, I think that's a safe bet.
100%.
Yeah, having seen our content and having seen us, I think that's a safe bet too.
Yeah, I think my work is convinced that Michelle is a paid Instagram model that I say is my wife, but she actually doesn't even live with me or near me or anything. It's just enough to have content out there on social media to prove that she's in my life. But no one ever sees me out with her. You've never seen both of us in the same room.
It's like an AI generated model. You could have just done that instead. It would be like,
Yeah, when we went to the Fire Games together, that wasn't her. That was just a stand-in.
she did look so different too. Yeah, that explains a lot. Looks nothing like the picture. She was a brunette. Yeah. So I think somebody was asking earlier. I mean, this whole our lack of since we're talking about wives and accents over here, because there's nothing coming from. We haven't even heard enough of Arne's accent to throw Arne's accent into the equation because he hasn't done the goddamn interviews. But so it's June 1st. Now that it's official, I really thought we would go into this morning show.
I thought
going with that. Apparently not, and doesn't look like obviously. So it's going to be today and stuff. Are you kind of shocked that it's taken so long? I mean, we said, okay, June 1st, and it's the Champions League and stuff like that. But you would think they would get it all set up and good to go. It's not like, they're not working behind the scenes, but it just kind of feels. I think I would love to. Maybe it's like more like a personal, selfish thing, but I would just like to freaking hear from him so that I don't hear about the speculations.
Yeah, because I know we've had plenty of discussions on Discord about it. And I genuinely believe that starting the Monday of this week after his official start would be the best time to hold anything or to release anything, have the press conference, do whatever you need to do. I think I saw someone somewhere write about, the LFC, the media and the social media team, like they need a break too because of the whole season and whatnot. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, at first I was like, yeah, great point. And then I thought, no, fuck that. We work every day.
Yeah.
Like why can't the social media team and the journalists take one day to do this? Like it's there. If anything, I mean, I guess they're getting afforded a nice luxury of having the days off then when the actual team is off too. So good for them, I suppose. But yeah, they can work just like everyone else that has to do the 5 days, 6 days, whatever the heck it is. So I did not buy that after I really sat down and thought about it.
No, I mean, I think, okay, was it more about, I mean, we figured the Champions League, right? They weren't going to do it over the weekend. Today is, by the way, Liverpool's birthday. So there is that.
Happy birthday,
happy birthday. We should sing happy birthday. I'll say that for tonight. We'll have Bickler sing at the podcast. But I don't know if that's for that or whatever. I think Ryan says he's not expecting any moves until the Euros and Copa. And we even talked about this with Bickler. We thought at one point, I think it was the episode that Gally wasn't there, and we both thought we would hear something early because we felt it was already in the works and planned and stuff like that, and it would be sealed and done. But it would have to be a player that is not in one of those tournaments, because otherwise, like I said, I just don't want, anybody in the Turkish national team right now. They're playing a friendly tomorrow. They play Poland, I think, next weekend or something as a friendly before the Euros. I don't want any of the, the Turkish players being involved in talks and stuff like that. It's just focus on the task on hand. So if we did sign somebody, it would have to be somebody, I assume, who's not in these tournaments.
Yeah, and then that limits the pool quite a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's just all the major countries of all the good talent, they're in the Euro, so all those players are involved. And yeah, I think we also talked about doing business before the Euros as well, because then if you wait till after, it doesn't leave a lot of time between the end of the Euros and then the start of the season, because there's only a couple weeks of pretty much preseason where they could feature, and they're going to have some time off after the Euros, at least a week or two.
Yeah. So
that would cut into it if they do progress far. So it depends on who it is that you're looking at and how far some of these teams go. So yeah, I, like you, also expected something to be announced early, but now that you also bring up the point of having that sort of looming and being that distraction, I can also understand why, the player necessarily wouldn't want it. The national team necessarily wouldn't want it. Liverpool, of course, they wouldn't necessarily care as much because it doesn't affect the club. But yeah, it's, now that we're really thinking about it, I don't think we'll see anything unless it's a sale.
Yes, that's possible, right? I don't think
Yeah.
Chancellor would distract Turkish players from winning the Euros. How dare
Woo!
you?
Shots
How
fired.
dare you? Turkey is actually, as always, a dark horse because it's always it's shot in the dark because you never know which team is, and that's the problem with like the Turkish national team. I mean, you just don't know which team is going to show up over there because that's World Cup where they made the run where they finished at actually like third and they lost to Brazil in the semifinal. It's like I feel like the current squad is much better than that squad. And sometimes it's luck too, like who you kind of like match up against and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Apart from Portugal, they have a group that's like winnable and stuff, but nobody even knows who's gonna play. I really like the fact that Arda got to play a lot towards the end of Real Madrid season because they wrapped up everything and they were giving him a lot more playing time. So at least he's gonna go to the Euros having played and stuff like that. As always, hopeful, optimistic,
Yeah.
cautiously optimistic.
At least the Turks will get out of the group because Poland is not going to see
Who are you guys in with?
Netherlands, France, and Austria.
Eee.
Yeah, not good. That has fourth place written all over it.
So let's see. Yeah, that's a rough one. That is a rough one, especially like knowing some other groups that are like clearly a lot easier.
Yeah, like look at Slovenia, Denmark, Serbia, England.
Yeah,
What the fuck? England's gonna run through that league or run through that group.
Turkey has Georgia, Portugal, Czechia. So actually, like I say, they have landed in a good group. I don't know if we're actually second seed or third seeds. Probably. I mean, this shows us as first seed, but I don't think so. And then you can even like advance as a third and stuff like that. I don't know. It should be interesting. I figured next week we'll talk a lot about that as we get closer. We'll have the what you want to call it, the friendly out of the way. When are they playing? Yes, they're playing Monday. Oh no, we won't have it out of the way. I guess they're playing next Monday, and then Turkey actually starts on the 18th. The big news in Turkey is Mourinho is in Fenerbahce. I mean, who would have thought? Football Flexion says, do you guys think Trent will start in midfield for England? I don't know. There's so many options before you come to Trent, right? Like we went to Trent due to lack of options, especially creative options out of the midfield. I feel like England, Southgate would not go that route.
Yeah, because they don't need to. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Yeah, I mean, there's not. You have players that can do stuff,
and they have Jude Bellingham, so whatever. They've got the best player in the world.
Yeah, that's really obnoxious every time like we've had conversations before, and I think with you, right? Like, we asked the audience, and even then, most people were saying, would you rather have the three we signed midfielders this past off season or Bellingham? And I think even at the time I was like the three we signed, but
no thanks, not anymore.
Now I'm like really debating it. Ryan says he will leave that poor Turkish team in ashes. I don't know. I think it's basically what Fenerbahce needs right now as a manager. He will leave it on the way out. It will be a disaster. But right now, I think you kind of need somebody who's going to get out there and tell people off in a press conference and stuff like that. That's the kind of manager Fenerbahce needs right now to kind of protect the team from the elements kind of thing. Like, if anybody's going to get thrown under the bus, I will throw him under the bus as Mourinho style. So I think we do that. If you get Bellingham, we wouldn't be able to afford anything else. Would you need anything? Yeah, I mean, England has some riches for midfield.
I mean, England typically has a pretty good team. They just underperform quite a bit, right? That's been the story of England the past 40 years. 60 years.
But the fact that they are in the best, I mean, like goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the conversation, like about like players coming from different leagues. The fact that they are all at top level and playing at top teams is, I think, has to help. And the good English players now compared to the good players maybe like 10 years ago it's like night and day.
Yeah, and you look at the age of this English team
Yes,
too.
that's another
It's
thing. Yeah.
not a young. It's not an old team. It's a very you listed Foden, Bellingham, and Rice. I mean, the combined age of those guys is what 65 years old, if that.
Yeah.
Of three guys, it's crazy. They have so much talent. Yeah, so we'll see how that.
And I don't know if it's fair to say, I mean, somebody probably English, I mean, I don't know if they would get offended or they would agree that I feel like the common English soccer player now is a lot more professional than they were 10, 15 years ago. There was a reason why you had the Germans winning 24/7. There was more of a like a discipline to their game, to their regimen and stuff like that. I feel like with the Premier League, the way it is and how competitive it is, these players almost have to be in terms of taking care of themselves, what they do in their time off and all that kind of stuff. Like you hear some stories from, you know, like the past eras of like English players and like the national team and stuff like that. And I'm sure that kind of stuff still happens here and there. But I feel like overall, the way players take care of themselves compared to the past is so much closer to some of these other nations like Germany and stuff like that that are very, very strict and like disciplined, because that's how it starts from being a kid all the way up.
It's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
I don't even know, like Scholes, for example, again, gets in this midfield. Gerard does, I think, just because he's more all around. I don't think Scholes gets into this midfield. I don't think he's needed in terms of what he does.
Yeah, can you imagine Foden, Gerard, and Bellingham? That's
crazy.
Disgusting.
That is disgusting. Who's your early favorites then? Are you going with England?
Hungary. Just kidding. No, I
Poland.
Good one. Yeah, Poland doesn't get through the group at all. It's going to be difficult to go against Spain. I don't know. I like Spain. It's another team with a lot of youth too, just like England. So I think initially I'm thinking Spain, England's up there as well, France is up there, and I think it's weird to call them this, but I think Germany would be a dark horse. And I only say that because they've had such terrible tournaments the last couple times that they're maybe not being considered the way that they should be. So yeah, that's where my head is at.
Yeah, a lot of France is going around, and yeah, I mean they have like a ridiculous riches in terms of the squad too. But
Yeah.
England, I mean, I think like we all feel like, you know, Southgate is the one that could stop him. I think it helps going through an easier group stage with like playing against Serbia, Denmark. You can really build some momentum there. But having said that, sometimes that kind of like trips you up. That's the thing I like about like the second round and stuff like that. Once it becomes elimination, anything can kind of happen in a single game kind of thing. But kind of like looking forward to it. Maybe it'll be a distraction from the daily 16 rumors of who we're gonna sign. I mean, I get that on this side, and then now that Mourinho's at Fenerbahce, every player who has ever touched Mourinho's hand, shaking his hand, is now linked with, I've heard Son, I've heard Lukaku. I mean, there is like probably I've heard like 25 names in just like one day of his old students.
The entire Roma team is coming over.
And then the thing is, he's been into a lot of teams recently, so there's a lot of players he can bring. But that's another thing. He can actually bring players, because I think there's a bit more of a, what you want to call it, like a status or whatever, to say I'm going, like there's a difference between I'm going to the Turkish league, I'm going to go play for Mourinho, is kind of like a selling point, I think.
Do you think though that clubs like Fenerbahce and Galatasaray need that, because they are in their own right two of the biggest clubs in Europe and historically as well? So do you think you still need that manager to? I mean, I think that the answer would be yes to get it over the hump, but I feel like both of those clubs have enough prestige where you wouldn't necessarily need that. But I'm not as familiar.
Like over, like you have, I mean, you're not going to have it over. I mean, obviously the money is better, right? So you're going to select them over maybe a team that's in, I don't know, like the Dutch league or something like that. But I think a lot of players do come ultimately for the fact. I mean, obviously money, and it doesn't look as bad on the resume. It doesn't look like you're totally selling out, especially because they're going to be in Europe as well. And I think that was like the distinction I was making in the past. I feel like a player going to Saudi Arabia is basically saying, "I'm going to oblivion." Like, you will never see me again, and then like they leave. Whereas I feel like when a player goes to Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, I'm gonna look at Olympiacos and stuff like that, right? Like, at least you're gonna be like, no, I'm gonna be in the European competitions. I'm still gonna be out there. A lot of players come to Fenerbahce and then be sold for higher prices to other teams. And I think that's another thing. You're not ending your markets for good. You can actually kind of revive your career a little bit as well. But yeah, I know what you mean, but at the end of the day, it is still the Turkish league, and often, sadly, the Turkish league has had so many fiascos in the recent season alone that I can see people are like, do we really want to go there? But the money is good, and like I say, I think it doesn't look as big of a sellout when a player goes to like Turkey and like Greece and stuff like that, as opposed to going to Saudi Arabia. The optics are better, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And I think that's why, a lot of them do. And if you can add on top of that you're going to play over there for Mourinho, he's going to, we're going to do this over there. We're going to do this over there. I think, you might be kidding yourself, or you might be kidding, the media or whatever, but at least it looks better on paper. The optics will be a lot better. What would be funny is Dele Alli already was in Turkey, so thank God I don't think that's going to be happening. I'd rather play in the Dutch league than the Turkish league. Depends on which team and how old you are, I think. I mean, if you are getting late in the years, you don't want to go to the Dutch league, to a middle of the table Dutch. I mean, Dutch league is similar to the Turkish league, where I guess similar to most leagues, where there's like 2-3 top teams. Otherwise, you're just kind of like there. So you don't want to go to a team like that unless you're young. If you want to develop and stuff, yes, I can understand that.
Yeah.
But here's another thing. This also, like having Mourinho over there, kind of like helps in the sense that a younger player might say, he can revive my career that's going down the drain. Whereas just a regular Turkish dude might not have that attraction and stuff. It'll be interesting. There's so much drama. We could have spent a whole episode. I could tell you this drama behind Mourinho and the unveiling, and because there's an election going for Fenerbahce next weekend, so it's a huge player in that whole ordeal. But it's Monday, so what is the Polish prince doing? Who's getting groomed? Anybody getting groomed? Just the fact that you have to think. Did you ever get in with your
Nope.
Dude, no.
Nope. I was lied to. That's okay. I'll have my people take care of that.
Yeah, I'm sure they're already closed.
No grooming today. We're gonna go play some tennis. That's what's on the board today. Some tennis with the wife. That's pretty much it.
Is there a guy like next to the thing holding a towel for you? Or is there two guys holding a towel for each of you guys? Or that's how I'm envisioning this. There's like lemonade on a tray. It's like ice.
Between sets, we sit down and we get the umbrella treatment while they have to sit there in the sun getting absolutely baked.
I can see this. Ryan says he's grooming nose hairs today. That's Tuesdays. But okay. But I'll be back. There won't be any grooming going on. There'll be working going on. But I'll be back tonight. 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, with Bickler. Hopefully he's still not stranded at the airport by then, or not drunk at the airport buying $11 beers, as Gally as well. So we'll be on live. We'll be talking about accents and Mourinho and miscellaneous stuff. And maybe we'll have some footage of your tennis match at tonight's game.
Oh, you don't get to see that. You don't get
Susie says Mateusz has some.
That's why you won't get any footage.
Oh man, but hey, have a great week, everybody. Enjoy the transfer rumors and hang in there. Real football should be back soon. We'll see you guys tonight. Take care.